good morning YouTube, YTPC. For a while I've wanted to actually just do a filter update video, just new pieces of news, but some innovations were going on in the market, so I waited. So I'd like to just tell you about some of these things. Now, very recently, 2 or 3 of the colleagues have quite rightly alerted us to Savinelli's new filters, which is a great relief, because the old triangular balsa wood ones I never really rated. They were, most of the smoke in a round hole just goes past this triangular shape. There's no hurdle really for much absorption, and if there was absorption, it's just water and not the tars. The 9mm version was not much better. I've actually played around with these and found that they take a long time to soak. They will soak up water, but if you're doing like an hour smoke, it really, I suspect, doesn't get much heavier. And certainly, as I said, for the other stuff that you're trying to filter out, and even the 9mm, you see it goes quite easily past these slats, because the smoke will take the least path of resistance. So Savinelli, God bless them, and cap off to them, rather like White Elephant, have been doing R&D. So Savinelli have come up with 2 wonderful innovations. One is the 9mm filters. Now, in 9mm filters, I think we were in pretty good shape, because there were a number of makes, and I never had really much problem with 9mm active charcoal filters. But now Savinelli are also offering those, which is great. It's always great to have more choice. But most profound is that Savinelli are offering these 6mm filters, which you've seen from Paladin, I think was the first one I saw who did them. Eddie at Pipe Nook has talked about them very recently, and 1 or 2 others. So far still only available directly from Italy. If you do go to that website, the top left, you have to adjust it for the country you're trying to order from, otherwise you might have problems to actually place your order, but they will ship abroad. Of course, there's I'm waiting for local suppliers to stock these, and then it will make great sense to buy more of them. But I just got some sample material. So I've tried these out. That's the difference I want to mention, and just show you, after I've dissected them on the table here, what I found. So I actually smoked in a couple of 6mm pipes these filters, which you see by the discolor here. One was a corncob pipe. Now, corncobs are where I had the most problem with the traditional 6mm filters. The one from White Elephant, for example, which everyone talks about here. They're labeled GG, but they are in fact White Elephant 6mm filters. And I think everyone, at least I had big problems with these in cobs. When I tried to remove them, they got rather soggy, and they're a little bit of a tight fit, and when you tried to twist them out, the paper would rip, leaving half of the filter stuck, and it was the devil to actually extract it from your stem. So that's why a long time ago, I switched away from these. These are about 40mm long and have a fair amount of active charcoal in them. You can see, as I shown here, the new Savinelli filters are 36 millimeters long, so they're not quite as long, which I think is practical. That makes sense, about 10% less length than the old white elephant ones. And they are a better fit going into the pipe. I've tried them now also on a Dr. Grabo Duke pipe and had no problem with either one to put them in. More importantly, to get them out after use. They did not tear apart. And I was interested to look inside, and I counted here 3 or 4 paper layers, but the outside wrapper on these is quite a tough one, and I think Savinelli they've put a lot of thought into it to make sure this thing won't be hard to pull out and won't tear or anything like that. So this is really good news, and as I said, I think there are 3 paper layers, in fact I counted here. The paper itself was about, so I weighed this is an unsmoked filter, 0.6 grams, and 0.1 grams of that is the paper, about 0.2 is the charcoal, about 0.15 is these ceramic caps. These are 5-hole ceramic caps. The more holes, the better for the draw, but I think with the old filters here, this GG, they only had 3, and I think that's too few from White Elephant. So I think these will slowly disappear because there are now such superior offerings. And after trying them, I basically weighed them, and so after trying them wet, they took on about 200 or 300 milligrams, 0.2 or 0.3 of a gram, and then when they're dried, there's still about 0.1 of a gram, 100 milligrams difference to the virgin filter, the unused filter. So they're taking at least 0.1 of a gram of tar out, as well as twice that much, 0.2 grams of water vapor. So over a 3 gram tobacco load, that's taking about 3% of the weight out of the tar and 6% of the moisture, about 10% total. So roughly, 0.3 of a gram on a 3 gram load of tobacco. But that's, I think, removing a lot of the tars and nasties, and also effectively cooling the smoke greatly. So that's the new Savinellis, which I've talked in the past about these other shorter filters which are used by the pot cannabis and roll your own smokers, and these are, especially the Parisa, I find these do a really good job, but they're only good for 1 bowl. They would get overloaded because they're rather short, and you see here the amount of charcoal, perfectly enough I think for 1 bowl, but there is more in the Savinelli filter, so I think in that sense also it's superior. Guise was just another variation, but I found sometimes these could, in certain cobs and 6mm pipes, be a little tighter than Parisa, so I tended to favour those. Using the coconut charcoal, which they claim it may be less, but it's more absorbent, and there's probably some truth to that. Very recently, just to show you, I found this little fella here, which is an aluminium conical filter. Again, this is from the the pot smokers, but it's active charcoal. It's maybe 50% more expensive, so it's a bit more of a novelty to try one of these. But if you've got a pipe which is really awkward in terms of the fit, this actually goes from something like 5 millimeters to 7. So I've tried it in a cob, and it sort of goes halfway in, and provided there's room in your shank for this part of the filter, which there usually is, it works very well, so this side to the hot side into the shank, and that towards your mouth. So that's another alternative if you've got one of those stem shank situations which just doesn't fit anything else. You could always try these C-tip, they are called, these kind of filters. And I was surprised they were not more expensive. In fact, it's 6 millimeters to 7, excuse me, and they are 26 millimeters long, so they're quite short as well, and just gives you another alternative. But I suspect for many cases you won't really need them. Now on the right here, I've got just some news on 9 millimeters, which is less and will be quick. So I've mentioned that Savinelli, of course, are now making these nice 9 millimeter filters. I will try these, but I will expect them to work very well, and just as well as any other one. And 9 millimeter filters, I found there were much less problems. That you had a good choice. You had the good old Dr. Pearl ones here, which they didn't have ceramic caps at both ends, but they had lots of holes to give you a nice draw. And these are still, I think, a perfectly good, very good filter. You just have to remember to put this on the mouth side into your shank, into your stem, and this towards the bowl in the shank, but perfectly good. Then there's Big Ben, there's Peterson's, aren't there? Parisa does a 9 millimeter, and I think at least 6 holes in a 9 millimeter is preferable. I, for a long time, preferred these ones, which were from Stanwell, because they've actually got slats, slits in a star form cut in there, so you definitely will get one of the best draws possible with this kind of filter. But again, these models which were for the pot smokers, they also did similar ones with the coconut charcoal, so that can be worth to try. And again, you have to look at, for 100, what do you pay, which gives you the best bang for buck. My favorite at the moment are these white elephant ones, which have meerschaum and charcoal in them. So they dry especially well because they've got meerschaum in them, but they've got charcoal to take the tar out. And these are called Super Mix. So I think they have the best of both worlds. They maybe could do with a few more holes in the top, but I've never actually noticed that the draw is really significantly inferior. Then of course I've talked about the pure meerschaum filters. These are okay in 9 millimeter. I found these unusable in 6 millimeter white elephant meerschaum, just meerschaum alone, no active charcoal. But 9 millimeter, they work, but you just have to know that they're focused on moisture control, and not really, hardly any of the tar will be filtered. A while ago I bought, just to try them, some of these, which are Denicool crystals in a cartridge. and it's a 9mm cartridge, so it fits all right in the pipe, but they're designed for water pipes and other pipes, and they don't have ceramic caps, they have plastic caps, which is a bit of a shame because they absorb like crazy. So here is an unused one, and here is one after a smoke, and it takes a ton of tar out, you see. They're very good Denicool crystals at doing that, as well as moisture. It was about, again, 100 milligrams or 0.1 of a gram of tar finally on the dry weight. So from weight, it looks like these charcoal filters do as much of a job in taking tar out, but you see here, of course, the problem is if it's too close to the bowl, there will be some melt, you see that? So that makes them unpractical, unless you've got a pipe where the filter top is not too close to the bowl, maybe a church warden or something like that, but it's probably just not the fiddle. My hope is that Denicool one time will wise up and put ceramic caps on both sides, and then one can try these as cartridge filter pipes in 9mm. I did play around with some other shorter filters here. These are actually, they claim to be 8mm, and they're clearly too loose for 9mm pipes, and they're too thick for 6mm pipes. What I found is you can put tape around them to make them fit, so that's a lot of a fiddle, and you would only want to do it if you're desperate, as it were. They do have a nice number of holes here, and they're active charcoal, even coconut active charcoal. And for example, Dale Piper once asked me, is there a short 9mm filter? The answer is no, but there is this kind of one where if you put enough tape around it, and on the hot side you try and keep the tape away from it and put tape around it on the cool end towards your mouth, you can then get a reasonable fit in a 9mm pipe, but it's too much fiddle, and it's only really what you would do if you've got a pipe that has a problem, and in that case you probably would try and find a drill solution to make sure your normal 9mm doesn't bump up against the bowl side, which is sometimes what happens is when the filter actually is too close to the hole opening into the bowl, and if it's not centrally drilled, your hole is at the top of this and sometimes even blocked, and your filter face is so close to the wood face that you can't get a proper draw, or none at all. It's usually a case of a bad drilling situation, and you have to just open up a bit more of the bowl face that the smoke can flow, which is using a Dremel tool or something like that. Okay, so that's the update, and my thanks to colleagues who drew attention to all these nice Savinelli filters, and I definitely would recommend them if you can get them, and eventually I think they'll be available through all outlets, not just directly from Italy, and I think at that point they will become very preferred, not only for Savinelli pipes, but any 6mm and perhaps even the 9mm. Okay.